Highlights, lowlights, heroes, villains, injury, incident, and more stuff that would keep any wacky voiceover guy going for hours. Round 6 was full of it, and so are we, as we dive into our first segment, Hot or Not. All right, your first cab off the rank.
I'll go hot. Positive.
Hot. Hooray, about time.
Lob. Not lobby.
Tennis.
Rory Lobb. Now
Rory
there's a creature you wouldn't think would be snapping balls with the wrong foot in the goal square. There's a guy that you just wouldn't have picked in the mounting yard. Have a look at this. That's funny. I mean, the bloke, he's got a beautiful pair of hands.
Yes.
He's good off the deck. He can second ruck. He's a nice straight kick at goal. I think Lobb's hot.
I've got
not in a boy term, just as a footballer.
I've got an analogy for you, and you don't like saddling people with these too soon, but he reminds me of an even more athletic Paul Salmon. He's exactly the same height as Paul Salmon, but he's actually more mobile.
I mentioned Salmon. Look, to me, there's only been two ruckmen that could have lived as ruckmen and forwards and been called champion at both Essendon players, Simon Madden and Paul Salmon. Now, to anoint him as a salmon at this stage would be fishy. But he's got those attributes, doesn't he? Because he's not scared when the ball hits the ground. He's a beauty, Rory Lobb.
He is a beauty. No,
and, of course, he plays for GWS.
Good call. Good call. I'm going positive to start with as well, and I'm keen on North Melbourne. Now, I've been keen on North Melbourne for a while, but particularly so now. Still the only undefeated side in the competition. Second highest scoring side, just behind Adelaide now. But the great thing about this win over the Western Bulldogs, Finey, was that they had to win another way. They had to scrap out a victory against the side whose defensive qualities have been terrific this year, and they found a way. Their midfield was tough. Forwards weren't as productive, but they still were a real handful for the Bulldog defence. They kept the Bulldogs to nearly half their previous lowest score of the season. So I just don't understand why they're not being seen in premiership terms. I don't know if reality's too far ahead of perception, which happens sometimes, but they are the real deal. And if I was framing a betting market, they would be at least equal flag favourite.
Okay, the reason they haven't been probably treated with the respect you think they deserve is they haven't played Hawthorn, Geelong, Sydney or West Coast yet. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so you can only beat who you play. And the other problem is that in their games, they haven't quite pulverised a team. They've had their hands around the neck a couple of times, but they haven't had that huge win that makes them look invincible in a single afternoon. I think they're very good. And just beyond their football season, which has been great, they've got the two best zeros in footy. And they are 0 in the loss column and 0 in the number of poker machines that add revenue to the club. And I always admire them for that.
Very good. I thought I was a political one on this show, but no, good call.
No, but we've got 9 Victorian clubs sucking at the teat of despair, and one of the clubs considered a smaller club that had to go up north that has resisted. It's a pretty good effort.
Okay, your turn.
Not hot. John Worsfold.
What's he done wrong?
Well, I don't think he's a great matchday coach. He's done really well with the team in terms of getting the spirit up, integrating top-up players with young players, with established players. It's a hard job, and he's probably the man for it with experience. But he did some bewildering things in the game against Carlton. Is your mob going for bottom on the ladder? Do you want first pick in the draft?
Well, I think they might get it by default.
Well, why is Orazio Fantasia? Look, against Collingwood, he was at pains to say this, that in the second half they got a lift from Fantasia when they took him out of the forward line onto the ball where he became their best player. He played 4 quarters in the forward pocket this week. He played Stanton out of the centre bounce for the second half this week. He keeps Danaher away from the ball this week, and he played McDonald, Tipungwuti and Courtney Dempsey in the same position, so much so they collided with each other.
I just think basically it's time for him to make a big decision about the top-ups or the older players and basically ration the amount of them each week and just start throwing the kids in. Nothing to lose now. Okay, I'm going a not now, and it is the Melbourne Football Club. But specifically, they don't call them the Demons for nothing, because this side is full of mental demons. When they build up a bogey against someone, they don't mess around. Now, you mentioned Etihad Stadium, and they've now lost 23 of their last 24 games there. And as for consecutive losses against particular teams, well, this one against the Saints was the 13th. Last victory over the Saints was the 2006 elimination final.
Grant Thomas was coaching.
Correct. In fact, 3 of the top 4 losing streaks in league football of team against team, Melbourne are on the wrong end of. They've lost 15 in a row against North, which is the biggest in the league, and they've lost 12 against Hawthorn. So you can play footy, Demons, but time to develop a bit more mental fibre, I think.
Yeah, and as for that streak against St Kilda, they remind me very much of the Footscray team of the late 20s and early 30s, the other team that we had the real holdover.
I'm impressed you remember the early 30s. Your call, we've got to get through those last couple.
All right, I've got a hot. Jacob Wiedering. Now, we know he got injured. He's out for a couple of weeks. Did you see the courageous act? This is a kid who's a tall defender. Have a look at this.
I mean, have a look at that.
Great skill. Great skill by...
Sam Grimley.
Yeah, Sam Grimley. Missed the ball entirely.
We'll get to that.
But this guy has gone and he has got the knee in the head. He's been absolutely crunched, but he did it out of desperation, knocking the ball through. And I've got to say, he's going to be a leader and a champion.
Yeah, no, well done. I reckon he's very short odds for the Rising Star already. And last one for me, and it's a knot, and it's the Gold Coast. Won 3 in a row, started drinking their own bathwater, and now they've lost 3 in a row. They've lost to Brisbane, and Saturday night, that was just pathetic. They've lost by 20 goals, 14 goals to 2 after half-time. Their biggest loss since 2012, only their second year in the competition. And they've played at Simmons Stadium now 4 times. Last year, they came within 9 points of what would have been a great win. But the other 3 games, they've lost one by 52 points, this one by 120 points, and one by 150 points. So I'm sorry, I know it's sunny and beautiful up there, but occasionally you do have to play on a cold, wintry Saturday night down at the Cattery. So harden up, Suns.
Is Day? He may well be out injured, Day, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, you'd think so, yeah.
They'll have no Mayday.
Very good. Very good.